and therefore are relatively new. But does this gradual erosion mean that Saturn will lose its most magnificent feature?
The idea is that over, long periods of time, the material can just get so small that it can be charged, end up acquiring a charge in Saturn's magnetosphere, and then it can just get zipped away, taken away by the magnetic field. Or it just spirals into Saturn itself. That is a scenario for the death of the rings, is that they finally get eroded away.
In order for Saturn to continuously have rings, they need to be refilled.
At the moment, Saturn has a tremendously large ring system, but the actual material in the rings does have to be replenished.
Strangely, another kind of assault might be necessary to preserve them.
They have to get renewed by an errant comet coming in and crashing, adding to the mass that's going around there. And that kind of question is still being debated.
The debate continues when theorizing as to when the rings will vanish.
Hundreds of millions of years, probably, maybe billions of years, we don't know. That's a matter of debate right now. Whether the rings are young and are going to die an early death, or they're old and they're going to remain with us for a very, very, very long time.
Of Saturn's 48 named moons, there are small moons called shepherds, for good reason. They have gravitational pulls that help keep the rings intact by herding the particles. Saturn's experts are interested in the complicated choreography between the planet's moons and its rings. The contorted F-ring is especially intriguing.
And then there's the two shepherd satellites on either side, Prometheus and Pandora. And they are having gravitational effects on this ring. It's being tugged in a variety of directions. So it looks wild and, misbehaved, if you will. And it's a dynamicist's playground. I mean, we're very, very interested in watching what happens to the F-ring because it tells us how moons interact with rings.
Saturn mesmerized civilizations as early as 700 BCE, when the Assyrians took note of it sparkling in the distant sky. Hundreds of years later, the Greeks gave it a name, Kronos, after the god of harvest, possibly due to its position in the sky during harvest season. The Romans' god of agriculture was Saturnus, which is why we call it Saturn. They also named a day of the week after it, what we now call Saturday. However, had the Romans actually seen the planet close up, they might have named it for the god of weather.
Saturn is a wild, ever-changing place, but unlike on Earth, where things change on a daily and even an hourly basis, the storms on Saturn can last for days and weeks and months, and things change on a large scale very slowly over time.
The discovery of this violent activity on Saturn came as a surprise to experts. For centuries, their view of the planet had been obscured by an ammonia gas haze. New satellite data is changing everything.
And we see now that Saturn is a dynamic place. It's been revealed now as being probably more dynamic in a lot of ways than Jupiter. Just the number of storms we see, the motions that they do.
Incredibly, winds blow at speeds of 1,000 miles per hour.
We measure the winds literally by watching the different little cells of the atmosphere move in imaging. So you need sequential images to see how much things have moved. There are new mountains on the surface of Saturn. It's cloud features that we look at to see how quickly they evolve and change and move to measure the winds.
Recent exploration has shown other phenomena that aren't yet understood.
We can see features, clouds, eddies, big plumes of material like we see on Jupiter. And we see these oval storms, lots of them. In fact, there's one latitude in the southern hemisphere where lots of storms zip around this band, okay, and we've watched them be created. We've seen them die. They die by merging.
Scientists nicknamed this area Storm Alley, after a region in America's Midwest that produces violent weather. It is believed there's lightning there, though no one has seen it.
And there's a technical reason for that. To see the lightning, you have to get around on the night side, and because the lightning flashes aren't all that bright, and so you need the darkness. But the night side of Saturn is very bright because of all the ring light that shines down on the night side of Saturn, and so it's very hard to sort the lightning from just puffy little clouds.
The hellish weather on Saturn has one more astounding surprise. And it's a true monster.
One of the freakiest storms on Saturn was this hurricane-like thing that they found down at the South Pole. Now, this storm is bigger than the United States.
The great red spot on Jupiter is merely hurricane-like. That storm doesn't have an eye wall. However, the South Pole storm has the characteristics of a terrestrial hurricane, including an eye wall, making it the only such storm on another planet.
It's not clear that it is a hurricane in every sense, like we have here on Earth, but so far the morphology of it looks very much like a hurricane. That was very exciting. Everyone got very excited about that. It even surprised us.
And you can see right down into the eye, just as you can with a hurricane on Earth, and they can see farther into Saturn's atmosphere than they've ever been able to see before. So this thing is literally a window into Saturn. And it's amazing to see something so similar to Earth on Saturn and then find out that we can actually do some science because of it.
The South Pole storm measures 5,000 miles across. That's 2/3 the diameter of the Earth. If a hurricane that huge were to form here, it would cover a distance from New York City to Baghdad, annihilating all in its path.
It's basically a swirling vortex of air that is centered around a hole right at the center with a walleye around it.
What powers this monster storm is still unknown.
And the winds are stronger on Saturn than they are on Earth, which is a puzzle in itself because Saturn gets so little energy from either the sun or from its own inside.
It's centered around the south pole of Saturn rather than being, in the equatorial region like a hurricane on Earth would be.
In early 2007, modern imaging technology revealed something else on Saturn that astounded scientists.
We see it very, very intensely now.
It's something big, something strange, and something never seen in the universe before. Saturn, the solar system's most bizarre yet beautiful planet, has just gotten even more mysterious. In 1979, the Voyager spacecraft showed a perfect geometric form over the North Pole. In October 2006, the Cassini craft found that it is still there.
It's just bizarre, and it sits there kind of still. It doesn't move with the planet. The pole, there's a hexagonal feature, a six-sided polygon that encircles the pole at about 78 degrees north latitude. And it's sitting there as a set feature.
The hexagon is similar to Earth's polar vortex, which has winds blowing in a circular fashion around the pole. Saturn's vortex can fit 4 Earths inside of it and extends 60 miles deep into Saturn's clouds.
And what's more bizarre, Voyager saw little tiny clouds going around at about 100 meters per second, which is about 200 miles an hour, going around this racetrack. People thought, well, maybe it's just a temporary thing. How could this stay there? It's been there now for at least 20 years, and we're going, what is this?
If you go there, you're going to enter these thick clouds. And the deeper you go, the more intense the pressure is going to get, to a point when you just implode. You and your spacecraft can't make it any farther.
For now, visits to Saturn's orbit are reserved for unmanned spacecraft. But surrounding the planet are at least 48 moons. Venturing to one of those is more feasible.
What's interesting now that we're going to the planets is that we're learning that in some ways the moons are where the action is.
We've already been to one of them. Titan is the only moon other than our own to have been explored. The event was beyond significant. On January 14, 2005, science fiction became fact. As part of the ongoing Cassini mission to Saturn, the unmanned Huygens probe descended onto the surface of Saturn's biggest moon. Titan lives up to its name. It is the size of the planet Mercury. In fact, it is the second largest moon in the solar system, 50% bigger than our moon. It is seductive in many ways. For one, Titan looks much like Earth.
That was the thing that hit me over the head, just how remarkably similar in process the surface of Titan looked. We have river channels that feed into these lake beds. We have winds. And then in other areas, we have dunes. The equator region of Titan, at least on one side where we've gotten good radar imagery, has hundreds and hundreds of miles of these dunes that are 100 meters high, several miles apart, and they just go on, this vast sea of dunes.
There are possibly deposits of solid hydrocarbons.
And we didn't really know until that probe landed whether it was going to hit liquid or some solid surface. It seemed to kind of fall on what looks like kind of pudding. It doesn't seem to be liquid or solid. It seems that Titan has some goo on the surface. It's almost kind of neither land nor sea, but something in between. And that's very amazing.
Amazingly, Titan, like Earth, has an extended atmosphere. No other moon does in our solar system.